Have you ever wondered why your fire feels weaker than it once did? Why your mornings come slower? Why ambition feels like a ghost trailing you rather than a force driving you forward? Why every night you whisper tomorrow to yourself only for tomorrow to arrive with the same emptiness as yesterday? No great tragedy has struck you. No war, no catastrophe. And yet you feel yourself softening. You feel yourself dulling, eroding in silence. This is the poison of comfort. It does not kill with swords or fire. It kills with velvet hands. It suffocates with softness, with pleasures disguised as progress, with ease disguised as freedom. Machiavelli himself warned that empires are rarely slain by enemy steel. They crumble from within, smothered by luxury, destroyed by their own excess. And the same law governs men. The hunger that once made you dangerous, the sharp edge that once separated you from the herd, begins to rot the moment you trade struggle for ease. The moment you begin to confuse softness with success. The moment you whisper to yourself, "I have earned rest," when in truth, rest is the beginning of decay. But here is the truth you must confront, though most men will never admit it. Comfort is not a reward. Comfort is a coffin lined with silk, perfumed with false safety, sealed with your own consent, and while you lie in it smiling, the flame inside you suffocates. Look around carefully. Watch the men near you. Watch your own reflection. Men who once blazed with ambition now lounge as hollow echoes of themselves. They tell themselves they are content. They repeat words like balance, relaxation, peace. But what do their eyes reveal? The fire has dimmed. The hunger has died. Their bed, which cradles them longer each morning, is not mercy. It is a prison. Their meals, too easy to acquire, too rich to resist, are not nourishment. They are chains. Their endless entertainment, dripping from glowing screens into their veins, is not joy, it is sedation. And every time you surrender to it, every time you reach for ease instead of edge, you lay another brick in the tomb you build for your own potential. Rome did not collapse because barbarians were too strong. It collapsed under the weight of its own decadence. Perfumed banquets, endless baths, bellies too swollen for battle, soldiers too pampered for war. Do you think yourself immune? Your temptations are not served on golden platters, but they arrive through glowing screens, fast food wrappers, false comforts. The shape changes. The psychology does not. And in time, comfort seeps into your bones until the man who once dreamed of thrones becomes the man who scrolls endlessly through the victories of others, whispering, "Maybe tomorrow." That whisper is the lullaby of death. Do not be deceived. Comfort does not set you free. Comfort is the most dangerous prison mankind ever invented. You do not see the bars because they are not made of iron. They are woven from softness. The pillow. The stable but stagnant job. The endless entertainment. The meals that sedate you, the weekends you waste, the so-called peace that robs you of fire. Beneath it all lies a terror most men cannot face, the terror of mediocrity. The terror of living and dying without ever becoming what you might have been. That gnawing suspicion in your chest, that whisper telling you you were meant for something greater than this routine, is not your imagination. It is your buried fire clawing for air. Pain sharpens a man. Hardship steels him, but comfort? Comfort dulls him until he forgets he was ever sharp at all. Comfort does not make you bleed, it makes you numb. And numbness is death disguised as life. Every hour surrendered to comfort is an hour of strength stolen from you. Every small surrender is another fracture in your will. A missed morning becomes a missed week. A neglected discipline becomes a forgotten purpose, and soon, the fire you once carried is nothing but a faint ember, a distant memory you struggle to even recognize. And society applauds this decay. The world wants you soft. It tells you balance is wisdom. That indulgence is self-care. That laziness is deserved. That surrender is healing. But look carefully at who benefits. Wolves do not cheer wolves for growing sharper. They cheer lambs for lying still before slaughter. The system does not want you free. It wants you predictable, tame, pacified. Comfort is the perfect tool of control. Why force chains on men, when men will chain themselves willingly with ease? Do you still doubt it? Then listen well. Comfort has killed greater men than you, kings, generals, conquerors, all undone not by assassination, not by rebellion, but by softness. It does not matter if you wield armies or simply your own will. Comfort poisons both the same. And here lies the cruelest truth. Comfort never announces it has conquered you. It allows you to believe you are alive. It allows you to mistake routine for progress. It allows you to mistake knowledge for power. Men will nod their heads and admit they are trapped, then do nothing. They believe awareness is victory. They confuse confession with transformation. But what is knowledge without execution? A sword rusting in its sheath while enemies breach your gates. There is no final battle against comfort. No single victory. It is a war without end, fought daily. Each morning you open your eyes, the battlefield is before you. Each decision to rise or remain, to discipline or delay, to fight or to fold, that is the war. And every choice has consequences that echo beyond the moment. Do not despair, for where poison exists, so too exists antidote. If comfort has suffocated your hunger, discomfort can resurrect it. I do not speak of random suffering. I speak of chosen hardship. The fire you step into willingly, the edge you embrace deliberately, the discipline that bends you until it remakes you. Every great man understood this. They did not chase comfort. They chased resistance. They did not ask how to feel better. They asked how to grow stronger. They were not seduced by softness. They were sharpened by struggle. So I turn the question on you. Will you remain in the velvet coffin, lulled by the lullaby of ease? Or will you step into the fire and reclaim the hunger that once made you alive? Do not answer with words. Words are lies until actions prove them. Answer with movement, with the refusal to bow to softness when it tempts you. Tomorrow morning, when the bed whispers, "Stay," that is the battlefield. When distractions glow on your screen, when indulgences beckon, that is the battlefield. The choice to rise or to rest, that is where your crown is decided. Never forget, empires were not built on cushions. They were built on refusal, on men who chose to sharpen themselves when others softened. And if you wish to rule even yourself, you must declare war on comfort as though it were a rival prince conspiring to steal your throne. But here is the darker truth. Even if you defeat comfort, your war has only begun, because beyond comfort lies an enemy far heavier, far more relentless, far more terrifying. That enemy is freedom itself. Freedom is not a gift. It is not a final reward. It is not peace. It is a burden. Because the moment you are free, you can no longer blame chains. You can no longer blame softness. You can no longer blame the velvet coffin. All excuses fall away. All responsibility sits on your shoulders alone. And that is why so many men, after briefly tasting freedom, crawl back into the arms of comfort. Not because they are conquered, but because they cannot bear the weight of sovereignty. Freedom is not rest. Freedom is fire. And only those who endure its burn are worthy of the crown it forges. And if you endure, if you carry that fire long enough, something extraordinary begins to happen. The weight that once bent your knees does not crush you, it strengthens you. The chains you feared become your armor. The burden you thought would break you becomes your crown. That fire burns away hesitation. It burns away excuses. It burns away weakness. Until action itself becomes your nature. You will not wait for motivation. You will embody it. You will no longer chase discipline. You will be discipline. But beware, because the moment you reach this height, the moment you rise above the velvet coffin and stand burning with the fire of freedom, a new enemy awakens. One far deadlier than comfort ever was. An enemy that waits at the very peak of strength. That enemy is pride. And if you cannot master it, pride will undo you more swiftly than comfort ever could. The story does not end here. In truth, it has only begun. Pride, the most seductive of all poisons. If comfort kills the weak before they ever rise, pride kills the strong once they finally do. Comfort whispers, rest. Pride whispers, you have conquered. There is no more war, and that whisper is far deadlier. Because while comfort smothers the spark, pride extinguishes the flame at its brightest. Look at history. Empires rarely fall in their infancy. They collapse at their peak, Alexander conquered worlds but died young, consumed by his own excess. Napoleon crowned himself emperor, only to gamble away everything in arrogance. Rome, at its height, drowned itself in decadence. Strength makes men rise, but pride blinds them. And a blind king is more dangerous to himself than any enemy could ever be. Understand this. Pride is not confidence. Pride is the lie that tells you you have no more need to sharpen, that you have no more battles left to fight. It is the crown that slips unseen as you boast about how firmly it rests on your head. And here is the irony. The very discipline that raised you, the very hunger that carved you into something more than average, becomes the thing you abandon when pride whispers. You convince yourself you are above the struggle, above the fire, above the hardship that built you, and in that moment you become soft again. Only this time with more to lose. Pride turns strength into weakness, wealth into chains, victory into vulnerability. For the man who believes he has no enemies is already defeated. But there is another shadow that stalks those who rise. Corruption. Not corruption from others, but corruption within. Because once you taste power, once you feel the intoxicating high of conquest, whether in wealth, in influence, in mastery, it is easy to forget why you fought in the first place. Easy to turn your vision outward, to dominate for the sake of domination, to seek glory not as fuel, but as addiction. Power reveals the man. And often, what it reveals is uglier than any enemy outside. Machiavelli himself warned rulers to be feared more than loved, to wield cruelty with precision, to guard against flattery as one would against daggers. Why? Because the very moment a man starts believing he is untouchable, the knives are already being sharpened behind his back. Do not think this warning applies only to kings and rulers. It applies to you. Power in any form will test you. Perhaps it is wealth. Perhaps it is influence. Perhaps it is mastery over yourself. The moment you taste it, you will feel the temptation to believe you are the finished product. But there is no finished product. There is only fire or ashes. And when corruption and pride intertwine, despair is not far behind. Because the man who loses his edge, who loses his hunger, who forgets his purpose, eventually looks in the mirror and sees a ghost. And that despair is heavier than any suffering life could have imposed on him. For there is no torment greater than wasted potential fully realized too late. Do you see it? The cycle is merciless. Comfort weakens the man before he rises. Pride blinds him once he does. Corruption corrodes him at the height of his power. Despair devours him when it is too late to return. But there are exceptions. There are those rare men who see through the illusions, who recognize pride as the final trap, and who crush it underfoot. These are the men who build legacies that endure beyond themselves, not because they were perfect, but because they remained vigilant long after others grew complacent. So how do you resist pride? How do you carry power without being corrupted by it? How do you hold freedom without drowning in its fire? The answer is simple, though merciless. You must remain a soldier even as you wear the crown. The crown is heavy not because of its weight in gold, but because it demands you continue fighting as though you have not yet earned it. A king who ceases to be a soldier is no longer a king. He is a corpse awaiting the hour of his burial. You must stay sharp. You must continue to embrace hardship long after the world tells you you no longer need it. Discipline is not something you graduate from. Discipline is the throne itself. And perhaps most important of all, you must shift your gaze from yourself to something higher. A man obsessed only with his own comfort rots. A man obsessed only with his own pride crumbles. But the man who binds himself to something beyond him, a vision, a legacy, an empire of thought or action, becomes untouchable. Legacy is the true antidote to pride. For pride seeks applause today. Legacy seeks reverence tomorrow. Pride feeds the ego. Legacy feeds the soul. Ask yourself, when you are dust, when your name is whispered by strangers centuries from now, what will they say? Will they say you lived gently, quietly, comfortably? Or will they say you burned, that you rose, that you refused the coffin of comfort, that you endured the fire of freedom, that you carried your crown with vigilance until your final breath? Most men will not care. They will live small and die smaller. But if you are here, listening to these words, some part of you knows you were not made for that. Some part of you aches for something greater. Do not betray it. Understand, though, greatness is not gifted. It is stolen from life through claw and tooth, forged in fire, kept only by those ruthless enough to fight not just enemies outside, but enemies within. And the deadliest enemies will always be invisible. Comfort, pride, corruption, despair. These shadows will stalk you for as long as you breathe. So how do you stand against them? With vigilance, with discipline, with refusal. You must become the man who seeks fire daily, who bends himself against resistance, who welcomes the burden of freedom as a forge, not as a curse. You must never allow the softness of victory to blind you to the war still raging within your soul. And remember this: men fear death. Men fear suffering, but the wise fear something far darker. They fear waste. They fear living without having lived. They fear reaching their final hour, only to realize they never wore the crown they were meant to wear. If you would avoid that fate, then engrave this into your mind: the war is endless. There is no final victory, no moment where you may rest forever. There is only vigilance, only struggle, only the fire that must be fed each day. Do not envy those who live comfortably. Do not admire those who boast pridefully. Admire instead the few who rise quietly, daily, relentlessly, without applause. The men who master themselves long enough to master fate. For in the end, fate does not reward the loudest. Fate does not reward the most comfortable. Fate does not reward the proud. Fate rewards the vigilant, the disciplined, the relentless. And if you would be remembered, if you would stand beyond your own death as more than dust, then you must refuse comfort. You must destroy pride. You must guard against corruption, and you must spit in the face of despair. Every day is a test. Every choice is a crown placed or a crown shattered, and every man must decide again and again whether he will live as sovereign or slave. This is your fire. Carry it. Protect it. Feed it. For when the world comes to test you, and it will, you will not be judged by what you wished, or by what you knew, but by what you did when the velvet coffin called your name. The war never ends. But that is not tragedy. That is triumph. For the endless war is the very thing that keeps you alive. And if you are still here, still listening, still hungry, then know this: your enemies are sharpening. Your rivals are rising. Your empire awaits. Do not falter. Do not rest. Do not close your eyes. The fire must burn hotter still. Stay. Because the next lesson will not merely open your eyes, it will carve them open.